I was asked to tell a little bit about myself and what the job entails. So I'll tell you two things about myself. I am a scientist and an activist, and I am one of those now myriad scientists who was working in science and at a certain point realized that all of the studies we were producing were not being listened to by governments. And so I've taken steps, sometimes on purpose, sometimes by accident. I actually got fired from my job at DFO for protesting the government that I worked for. Turns out you're not supposed to say bad things about uh, poor fishery practices when you're producing science that's being ignored by that same department. So, um, yeah, I was involved out at Fairy Creek. I appreciate Elizabeth mentioning that. And I just wanted to tell a little story about that in lieu of saying too much more, because I think it's got a lot to do with the point that the party's at right now. And the point of this story is I want to say a genuine thanks to everybody who has stuck with us through the hard times that we've just come through. Because a lot of times it can seem like we're up against really, really impossible odds, you know? And the story I want to tell about Fairy Creek is when I went out to go get arrested for the first time for civil disobedience. And my friend, City Councilor Ben Gesselbrock, told me, it's like, oh, they're starting to arrest. And it's like, I knew from Extinction Rebellion and other things in the past, like, this is one of the things I am determined to do in my life to make a difference here. Like, I'm going to be on the front lines, one of the first people arrested. So I was like, all right, I'm heading out. And they had this line that you can go past. It's called an exclusion zone. And they've been proven to be illegal. It's a thing to do with that whole police group that Elizabeth May was talking about, the CIRG. And through a long series of events, I figured out how it was that I was going to get into this section that they were starting to arrest people to be able to drive the trucks in there and start logging all of this old growth. And it was a section called the KQs, a place that I'd been a bunch. I just every weekend I was out there. I'd spend a month out there helping around with building things and stuff. And I remember this just beautiful community of people, just hundreds of people coming in and out, like living in a camp where we were united in this one purpose of, in this specific way, saving the planet and ecosystems that we all rely on. And I remember I went and I hiked in the back way. I had some drive down all these mountain roads and we got lost in the woods. It was a 45-minute hike that took us 4 hours, almost fell down a ravine. It was crazy. Got there at 4 a.m. and I was expecting to see all these people lined up. And it's like, yeah, we're all here. We're ready to stand our ground right when it counts, right when things are getting tough. And there were literally 7 people left at the camp. The cops announced that they were going to arrest folks and everybody took off. Everybody turned tail as soon as things got tough. And I know that this is how it goes sometimes. And it's like, I almost cried. I was like, is this really all that there is that we have left to fight against this thing that matters for all of us? And so put my arm in a hole in the ground through concrete and pipe and got jackhammered out and got arrested. And there was 7 of us. The next day, a few more people showed up. And we had 3 days of arrests. And I remember my fiance now, she was so concerned because there's no reception out there. She went and hiked out through this crazy hike in the back bush to come meet me. And there was nobody left. And she got set up to get arrested with her friend. And I credit that day. And I think everyone who is stuck with the party were those people, those 7 people, or what ended up being like 15 people that are going to help see us through to what Fairy Creek ended up becoming. Because during those times, those first few arrests are what held off those chainsaws so that all these tree sits didn't get discovered by the police. And these huge media stories got out and it became an international headlines, literally. And it moved on to become eventually the largest act of civil disobedience in the history of Canada. Got some actual movement on the old growth file from the BC government. Not enough, as everybody knows, but something. And I think that we are now on that upswing. And it's because everybody here stuck around through those tough times. We can make this what Elizabeth May is talking about, 12, 15 seats, with the next election and become a force to be reckoned with and fix all these issues that we care about and build a world that we really want to see. So as BC rep, I just want to I want to contribute what I can in a lot of ways. There's too much different work to sort of describe it, but I've talked enough. I just figured I'd share a story instead of rambling on about my credentials or the minutiae of the work that we're doing here. Not to say that everyone else is doing that, but yeah, wonderful people. Thanks. Oh, and I didn't even acknowledge the land I'm on. I'm sorry, I'm nervous, folks. I'm coming to you from the traditional territories of the Snuneymuxw First Nation.